is it also possible to celebrate failure? Because what we do, and again, I think it's the way most people are wired, is we don't celebrate failure. And I think coaching can offer that psychologically safe space to be able to say that, hey, I tried and I failed, but I still think it calls for that celebration. And I'm building off on the point of courage, because, and I think Anshu also mentioned, courage is not always about success.
No.
Courage is about being able to, fall on your face, fall flat on your face, right? And to be able to just celebrate that, because it's highly possible when you do that and you look at the process, you look at what's happened, that you may not fall the next time.
Hi, everyone. Wonderful to be with you in this webinar where we are talking about celebrations. How are you, Vijay?
Good. I am really looking forward to the space we are co-creating today, Cindy. End of the year and all that.
And coaches, as you come in, tell us something you would like to celebrate for yourself in this year. 2023 may have had highlights, high moments and low moments, challenges and a few wins for some, or many wins too. Tell us what you would like to celebrate in yourself or for yourself. Vijay, is that a big question for you? Should I ask that?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat box and, lots of greetings from all parts of the world: Houston, Finland, Pune, Hyderabad. Nagesh is here. Yeah. So I'm kind of just, there's this, I think even being able to come together like this is quite a celebration, I would think.
Yeah.
And, I was telling you some time ago that we had a pretty devastating cyclone in Chennai. That's where I'm logging in from.
Yeah.
And, same time last week, we were totally cut off from the world. And to just think that, we can be here together, being connected with people, having, stable internet connection, and, just simply electricity and things like that. So I think even that progress calls for celebration.
Yeah.
Just the things we sort of take for granted. So I'm in that frame, actually, and I just keep extending that to coaching. And I just feel as coaches, we are so privileged. Privileged to serve. We start off in a setting of trust and credibility. And I think that itself deserves celebration.
Absolutely. I hear that, Vijay, and I acknowledge, the deeper sharing that you started the webinar with, knowing last week and a few days ago was quite rough on you. And of course, I'm sure many coaches and their families that are on this webinar. So we hear and acknowledge that in you.
Thank you, Cindy.
So coaches, just to put a spotlight on today's dialogue, Vijay and I are going to be talking about lightness and celebration in coaching. And we'd like that to become also a partnership with you. And we know that you can only type into the chat box and share your thoughts and feelings and insights with us, but we'd like to partner with you in that. And together we will today explore how lightness and coaching and celebration show up in coaching, the role they play in coaching partnerships for ourselves, for our clients, and our communities. And, I can tell you this, when Vijay and I get into a dialogue, the conversations will evolve and take its own dance. So I'm also looking forward to knowing or to noticing some of the unknowns that will show up in our conversation today. Vijay, anything you want to say to frame today's session?
Yeah, that's a lovely way you have, because I think when we talk about a theme or a topic, it's also how does it show up in our embodiment, and maybe we should just trace this back a little bit, and talk about how this webinar really came to be. So I just want to share, this is a space of coaches, a warm and I think supportive space of coaches largely who are here today. I want to just talk about this, that in my conversations with Cindy, whenever, professional conversations really about coaching and about the possibilities or some of the struggles, challenges, core competencies even. There are many times when I think the subject matter itself is quite intense, it's quite deep, it's quite, it just sort of can weigh you down if you sort of just look at it very cognitively or clinically. And one of the things I've always noticed is amidst all of that, usually the conversation will sign off, or if you were to bottom line it, there would be an overall positivity, an overall kind of lightness, if I may. And I think that was where the thought came from, saying that, in the space of coaching, how do we create that lightness and, that sense of, that sort of positive space for the clients whom we partner with, many of whom obviously come into coaching not for academic explorations, but, to deal with real life issues and challenges and, meaningful, deep stuff. So that's the other thing that I would love for us to talk a little bit about, as to how it actually happens and, what's the role it plays.
Absolutely. So coaches, I'm waiting for you, to coaches and non-coaches on the call. I'd love for you to share, what would you like to acknowledge in yourself? As we go into the webinar and deep dive, what is it you want to acknowledge in yourself?
Especially, it's the year end, 2023.
Yeah, it's the year end. Yeah, absolutely. It could be for yourself, or maybe we'll broaden it for yourself or your clients or your communities. What do you want to acknowledge? One of the things I'd like to acknowledge is just walking that extra mile, Vijay. Like the year's been pretty tough. It had a lot of challenges. It had an enormous amount of wins. I found myself unable to pull myself out of the laptop many times. I'm sure you may have felt that way too, right? Just a little bit more, I'll complete this or I'll complete that. And you find yourself spending hours at work. It doesn't always feel like work because, you love what you do and you enjoy it. And it doesn't show up like work until your body gets tired and it's now time to take a break. So that's what I want to acknowledge in myself, noticing those little moments that tell me to stop.
Wow.
It's not big. So this year I paid attention to all the small moments, those little pauses, timeouts, and silences that contributed to well-being.
Yeah. Yeah, well-being has also been a theme on my mind, Cindy, because while, you know, and I've said this earlier, coaching and the whole space of wellness goes so much hand in hand. And yet as coaches, I'm not very sure how much attention we really pay to our own well-being, till those little signs and, you know, the voices in our head and body and everything else start telling you that. In fact, I must tell you on a lighter note, I had a client once this year, you know, and you know, clients are amazing, right? And that's the beauty of this partnership, who gently, very, very, you know, coachingly called it out, saying that, you know, was I okay?
Yeah.
And you know, that's also a nudge, right? People, I mean, you don't need to be trained as a coach to realize that.
Yeah.
So I think
So your client asked you whether you were okay.
Yeah, the client asked me whether I was okay. And you know, I was so touched. You know, but you know, it's commonsensical, right? You work so closely with your coach.
Yeah.
You also realize that your coach is a human being and, you know, needs that. So for me, that is the trust, bed of trust on which the dance happens that you spoke about. But I completely agree with you. Sometimes messages from inside and sometimes messages from, you know, well-wishers. And my client telling me was a first, you know, this year. And you know, I didn't defend, I didn't say anything. I actually remember that conversation where I just said, well, not entirely, perhaps, you know. And then I got thinking, but yeah, and you know, and I think lots of stuff coming in the chat box. So I'm just going to take my eyes there and, you know, quickly look at that, Cindy. And I request everybody to do that in the calls. And beautiful, beautiful responses in response to what Cindy asked, right? So this year I'm learning to be kinder to myself, which is a gift. Absolutely. Amarendran is practicing empathy, and, you know, I think he's celebrating that. I want to acknowledge the transition I made to this space. Raghu says, empathize, acknowledge for their potential, make a difference. Nagesh is celebrating non-judgmental. I think it's listening, not listing. Compassionate, go beyond. It's your privilege and duty to serve. Absolutely. Anshu is talking about taking courageous action forward. Anshu, if you'd love, if you're okay, please do elaborate as to you know, what that means to you. Raghu's again said, making clients stress-free and encourage healthy work life. Absolutely, for coaches and clients alike. And yeah, lots of other things, well-being in teams, compassion, acknowledge that nothing is permanent. Wow. Yeah, absolutely. Being more patient, present, and giving myself and others the time to bloom.
Oh, that's so lovely. Something magic is growing and evolving.
Yeah. And Pekka says, stopping busyness and having a peaceful and meaningful encounter between two human beings.
Yeah. Well done to you, Rekha. It's not always easy to know when to stop the busyness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a lot of times, I don't know about you, Viji, I'm so engaged and involved and happy with the busy. I don't notice it's, you know, I'm crossing a line here. I'm doing too much of it.
Yeah.
Especially ad hoc stuff. If a coach calls me or something, it's ad hoc. I'm just, you know, barely engaged in something without paying attention. So we're talking about these small moments of celebration. And together with this word celebration comes this word acknowledge. And if you look at, because we're referencing coaching, if you look at our competencies and markers, the word acknowledge repeatedly shows up. Repeatedly. I tried to make a note of it before the webinar, you know, just to run through some acknowledgements with you.
Yeah.
Just to like not you, Vijay, everybody, not you. I mean, I know how good you are in this topic, but just to like, talk bit more about this word acknowledge, which in simple ways, listen, coaches, you may have your own versions, or acknowledge may show up with different meaningfulness with you and your clients. But simply put, it's to recognize something important, either some quality or something in someone or something. Just what's important showing up in them, and to show them or to indicate to them that they have been seen and understood or heard. It's, I'm observing something in you and I am speaking it out aloud. I'm saying something about it. I am acknowledging it. Again, there are many meanings to the word acknowledge and celebrate. You will have variations of it in how you are working with your clients. One of the things I'm going to pick up first is around, competency two. When we talk about embodies a coaching mindset, the word acknowledge there shows up in how we acknowledge, or the coach acknowledges that clients are responsible for their own choices. Now it's kind of taking some kind of understanding in how we partner with clients that indicates we have this kind of understanding on them making choices, them growing, them clients are we facilitate growth, progress with clients, of course, and learnings. And I'll pick up again with core competency on trust and safety, where acknowledge again shows up in how we respect the client's unique talents, insights, and work in the coaching process. I'm going to stop here because I'll say a bit more later about where else this word acknowledge shows up, but Vijay and I will engage with more dialogue around, where we're noticing acknowledge and celebrations showing up with coach and clients, and the space in between, the process of coaching. So,
Yeah. So I want to add on to that, Cindy, and the word celebration, as I was first exposed to competencies years back. I think really I go back to the old set of competencies, and for those of you who are not so familiar with that, that's available. You can pick it up. You can refer to them. Personally, while I love a lot of the things about the revised and current competencies, I also love some of the stuff that is beautifully nuanced in the earlier competencies. There was this competency 9, which is all about designing actions. And one of the things I remember first time I noticed it is, where does celebration fit into a classical paradigm of, actions, right? I mean, typically when we say, it's an action plan, celebration is more process, right? That's what we would think. But I think it's really important as coaches, and when I say coaches, it also means, obviously clients, but to be able to actually look at that as one of the actions that we would invite the client, because we never design actions for clients. It's clients who agree and design their own actions, but that invitation to celebrate. So what is the celebration about? So one would think that you celebrate milestones, progress, and all of that is there even in the current competency 8, which is about facilitating client growth. But something beautiful in the earlier competencies was celebrates client success, and also, I would say, potential or capabilities for future growth. So you are talking about not just celebrating what has been accomplished, that you see with evidence, feedback, data, surveys, or just sharing, but also the potential or the capability for future growth, which is what coaching is really about, right? Because it is about inspiring your clients to really maximize their potential. So you're actually celebrating that as well.
Yeah.
How wonderful that is, right? Because we don't think, we usually look for, you know, some tangible sort of evidence, or the world to tell us that, you know, we've done something great or arrived, etc., before we celebrate. But we don't have to wait. And that's another theme that I want to offer myself and, you know, all coaches here on this call, saying that, you know, you don't need to have arrived or accomplished a certain set of things to be able to celebrate yourself and your own journey. Because each of us as coaches also have that, you know, infinite potential that's lying untapped.
Yeah.
And how would it look to celebrate that future possibility and potential? And just thinking about it, you know, is energizing me.
Absolutely spot on. And you know, Vijay, that because we're talking about facilitating growth, I also want to raise in your PCC markers 8.8 talks about celebrating clients' progress. Yeah.
And learning, yeah.
And learning, celebrating clients' progress and learning. Again, coaches, there's something there about acknowledging wins or some successes or some courageousness or something that the coach noticed the client has done in the session. Something more. The coach is acknowledging the client's progress and growth in the session. So it's not just a case of, I'm so happy for you. Oh, wow, that's so exciting. It's far more than that. It's more than that. In this partnering with coach and client, coach is acknowledging progress and learnings of the client.
Yeah. And may I say something that may be a little, you know, out of the textbook, so to say.
Yeah.
You know, this word success, right? I think we also need to look at it with a broader lens. And, you know, that's been one of my learnings in the last, I would say ever since the pandemic, right? The world's never really been the same. And, you know, it's had far more of its share of challenges than, I would say, normalcy in that sense. So even this word successes, I wonder, you know, is it also possible to celebrate failure? Because what we do, and again, I think it's the way most people are wired, is we don't celebrate failure. And I think coaching can offer that psychologically safe space to be able to say that, hey, I tried and I failed, but I still think it calls for that celebration. And you know, I'm building off on the point of courage, because, and I think Anshu also mentioned, courage is not always about success.
No.
Courage is about being able to, you know, fall flat on your face, right? And to be able to just celebrate that, because it's highly possible when you do that and you look at the process, you look at what's happened, that you may not fall the next time. Yeah, fail forward. Absolutely. I'm seeing that in the chat box. So let's just broaden this definition of success to also include failure and everything in between, the continuum.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's that journey from where you started, your current reality, to where you're going. The road is not always a narrow one or a clean one. It has many pebbles and stones along the way. Yep, like hero's journey, you take that journey forward. And absolutely, Vijay, because many clients don't acknowledge their own successes, right? And the process of coaching, when coach does that kind of acknowledgement, it sits highly like a aha moment for a client. You know, oh, did I really do that? Oh, did I really show courage there? Because they don't acknowledge that in themselves. You get so busy with everyday life that you don't see your own strengths and your own character building or leadership skills beginning to show up in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why you need that mirror, right? We
Of
often say
course.
coaches are mirrors to be able to play that back in the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you're talking about the old core competency, remember that competency on presence.
Yeah, my favorite.
Yeah, add humor written into it, humor and lightness.
Correct. It says about usage of humor effectively, right? I mean, you're not sort of
Yes,
running what's that called, a laughter show there, right? That's not what coaching is about. But to be able to use humor effectively to create lightness and energy.
absolutely. Effectively, absolutely. And appropriately, right?
Yeah. So I want to talk about one incident, Cindy. I think maybe a year or two ago, when I was having this conversation with one of the coaches, right? And this person was quite open enough to say, and we were talking about this, something around these lines, right? Saying, this person said that I'm by nature quite a serious type. I'm not the one who can crack jokes or just fool around, right? That's not me. And some people are wired that way, right?
Yes.
I mean, I'm fortunate to have people like that, I would say, who can liven up any situation. So the question really was, how do I then use humor to create lightness and energy? And that's what got me thinking, right? That not everybody can use that. But maybe not through humor, but maybe through something else. Can we create that lightness and energy? Was the thought that always stuck with me. Right? Can we also make a painful, a messy, a not so easy conversation just easier? That's, for me, that is lightness, right? How do we bring in that ease even when we are discussing very difficult topics?
Yeah. Yeah. And lightness can come from either way, because the thing with lightness, it also builds rapport between people. It strengthens and bonds a relationship, talking about trust and safety, as in that kind of a relationship. It makes something easier to become more vulnerable and open. And many people find it difficult to share, and they would with an analogy or a metaphor. And they may, in that analogy and metaphor, use it in a lighter way to demonstrate exactly what they're feeling or what they're thinking, that otherwise words would be difficult for them. Maybe not difficult, but won't come as easier.
Yeah. So one question, sorry, Cindy,
Yeah,
go ahead.
no, I was checking on the chat box and encouraging people to share their thoughts.
So there's a lovely point that Pekka has put in the chat box. Coaches are mirrors, use humor, create lightness and energy. Coaching is a matter of being spacious. I love that. It is about creating that space, right? It's not about being so, what's the word, so wired up, right? I mean, so tightly wound up that
Yeah,
you have no space to play around. You need that space for growth, for personal growth. Even if you have somebody like a coach who is privy to almost your littlest of feelings, you still need that space. So thank you, Becca. Whatever enters to the space, is up to the coachee or the client.
and this lightness in coaching shows up in the definition of coaching, right? It's in the very definition of coaching. Partnering with a client in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize the personal and professional potential. So this word inspires indicates lightness, celebration, something more there, something that's like a light bulb showing up inside you.
Yeah.
Beginning to get brighter and brighter. There's some kind of inspiring going on. So lightness and celebration is indirectly or directly embedded into the definition of coaching.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the paradox, right? Because you're also talking about thought provoking,
Oh,
and
of course.
thought provoking is usually, there is that seriousness about it. And that's the beauty of this space, right? Can we, the paradox of serious lightness, or, light seriousness, whichever way you want to look at it. And it's also the dance between those two. And I have found, great growth and great moments, and I would say progress happening if we are able to really navigate the two
Yeah.
with a certain sense of equanimity. And that is something that we develop. And I think the first step there is to be able to actually not take yourself so seriously as a coach. Yeah, sure. I mean, I think you need to be very, and when I say you, I'm referring to me. There is that pride of being a coach. There is that privilege. There is that, that you wear it proudly, on your sleeve, right? But it doesn't mean that you take it so seriously. You learn to laugh at yourself a little bit. You learn to laugh at your own failures, your own incompleteness, your own imperfection. And I think we can do that. There is that lightness that sets in, and I feel that is also sort of contagious. It rubs
Yeah.
off to the clients. They're willing to take some risks. They're willing to fail. They're willing to, just look at it with that lightness, which is very important, because great ideas, and you said inspiration, even creativity does not happen in a container of absolute seriousness and tension.
No.
So I think a lot of it is also begins with, and I think that's where we go back to CC2, core competency 2, which is coaching mindset. To be able to, as a coach, what is the worldview with which you look at yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. And so is the ongoing process of coaching. You're getting credentialed, you celebrate that, it's another milestone, you celebrate that. It just builds more and more confidence in you, in your own capabilities, right? Of course, all that adds up to success as a coach. And in the way you coach, the process of coaching, that shows up. It ripple effects into clients, as a systemic effect into many other parts. So this lightness, inspiring, and potential is very interlinked.
Yeah.
Interdependent. Yeah. I'm
seeing some comments, and I think there's a question. So maybe we can just take a minute's pause and look at that, Cindy. So I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct. Metka says, when we talk about celebrating failure, what kind of failure should be celebrated? I mean, there are different kinds of failure. Some failures are necessary to make a next step, I think, on the journey of growth. However, not all. Yeah. So, Metka, my response, and I'm, not ducking this one, but which kinds of failures come to your mind that, don't you believe don't deserve celebration, or, kind of don't warrant or call for a celebration? Would you be able to put that down in the chat box?
Yeah. Yeah, you can, right?
Okay, I'm optimistic. Who is KZ? I'm sorry, Zoom has its own okay. Hi. Okay. Hi, Katie. Thank you. Yeah. So Katie says, I'm optimistic that we can find something positive, silver lining in most failures. Okay. Yeah.
We can, right? Right? Because even if a client brings a topic to the session, I've tried repeatedly in getting more clients, for example, and I can't, and no matter what I try, I'm not hitting the mark that I set for myself or hitting the goal. So I'm finding myself repeatedly failing at social media, digital marketing, and what. But the very process of coaching, as you begin to explore with the client, is a movement from that current reality into what the client wants, a desired outcome. So Katie is right. I mean, there's a movement into a positive.
Yeah.
It may take time, definitely, but there is a movement into a positive.
Yeah. So thank you, Metka. So Metka's response is failures which are happening again and again, and you don't learn on them. Yeah, sure. I mean, what you say, I think makes it's commonsensical, but
Yeah.
I'm wondering this learning, is it the learning that strikes the client or the coach? Because sometimes when we are not in the hot seat or we are not running that race, it's far easier to see and learn from failures. When you're in the process of failure, sometimes it's not that straightforward to be able to have that aha saying, okay, these are the 10 lessons, or this is the one lesson I've learned. So
Yeah.
my view, and Cindy, you can share, is uh, I would, I would still encourage to look at, and celebration is not really about, feeling fabulous and, saying that, oh, everything is great. But I think it's also about celebrating that next step, or just the will to go back again and run that race. And sometimes there are, repeat failures before you finally taste success or the way you define it. So I would still give that a long rope. And if the client um, is open to acknowledging celebration, even in that failure, I would offer that space.
Yeah. Last week, I took an action that I procrastinated on for a long time. Small, simple thing. It wasn't big, but the repeatedness of the procrastination, like I'm going to do it today, and I'll do it today, and I'll do it later, and I'll do it later, right? Was going on for about 3 or 4 weeks, and I finally did it. Honestly, when I finally did it and sent that email, I felt inside me like I ran a marathon. That sense of satisfaction. And I thought, oh, wow, I can't believe that this lightness is so big for something that was so small.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was the action. I think it was conquering the today, tomorrow, and finally done.
Yeah. Yeah, well done on that, I would say. Okay, thank you, Silvina. So, I mean, I really like this conversation that's happening on the chat. So, thank you, Silvina, for sharing your perspective. You are not answering this as a coach, okay? So, let me read that out. When I hurry into taking action, knowing I might fail and still can't help it, this does not deserve celebrating. Okay. This is a lesson I've learned intellectually, but no emotionally or spiritually yet. But don't know, I would think, emotionally or spiritually yet. Sure. I mean, I would just say thank you for sharing that, because I think, and that's also the uniqueness, right? As coaches and clients, there's no one way of handling success and failure.
Absolutely.
There are clients, and this is also something we must learn. We find sitting on the outside, being in the bench or being on the sidelines, watching the clients run their race, that they've done something phenomenal, right? Something that you would have never been able to do in your life, or, it's just inspiring. And yet for the client, it's not worth celebrating. And, they're looking for something more. So, something that, well, in your perspective, deserves all celebration, the client doesn't want to go there, or the client is not satisfied, is not ready to celebrate yet. That's also a place where we need to, I think, rein in ourselves, and hold off on that celebration. Though you can, of course, offer that invitation, or be honest and say that, this has been quite a journey since where we started, or something like that. But success, failure, celebration, not choosing to celebrate, I think are all quite subjective. And, I think from that's what's striking me from what Sylvina has typed into the chat box. Cindy?
Something that strikes me, or that I've repeatedly heard from coaches, in giving feedback or mentoring, Vijay, is that a lot of coaches are not comfortable celebrating. Like they would ask, so how do you celebrate? I'm not comfortable doing that with the client. Now, there's many ways to celebrate, right? Meaning, I hear you is an acknowledgement. I hear you, I see you, and in however you communicate that to client, that there's an understanding on what they're going through, and you are acknowledging it in them. I can't find another word to use for acknowledging here, but you see them, you recognize it. That itself is a celebration.
Yeah.
So you don't have to particularly use words like, those expressive words. Wow, brilliant, fantastic, awesome. It doesn't always have to be that kind of expression to celebrate something. It could be simply acknowledgement of what you're noticing your client is going through, or you for yourself. Just acknowledging that you're doing something different, taking a different path to the achievement of your goals, or something that you're working on. Have you ever felt a bit uncomfortable, or know coaches that are uncomfortable with acknowledging?
Yeah, I think so, because it also feels like, you are sort of being the judge in that, right? You're judging their show. Actually, it's not, right? I mean, you're not a judge clapping and judging them for performance. But I think it's just noticing, I think.
Yeah,
And
it's
being honest
noticing,
about that
observing.
noticing. Yeah.
Yeah. But also curious about it, right?
Yeah.
Just being a bit
Just
curious.
Absolutely. So there's other thing that's struck me, Cindy. And again, I go back to the early days of the pandemic, right? And being a systemic coach, I can also say that, beyond the goals that we work together in the coaching space, right? There's a lot more together we are working on. And I think that's where that partnership is, creating impact or whatever, right? The larger systemic effect of the work we do. Sometimes celebration and, even that lightness or whatever need not be about the client. And that's the beautiful part. I remember at least on 2 occasions, maybe 2021, this was around the second wave or something. And, India had gone through a pretty bad one. I remember, at least with 2 clients, we would simply, from one session to the next, celebrate and acknowledge, and just be grateful for the fact that we were alive. Our families were okay. There was no other, major threat around. And I think it's important, right? Because we are part of our environments. So it's also about that, right? Coaching can offer that container, that safe container where people can. And in doing that, it's our humanity that we're celebrating in some ways. So it's nothing to do with the goals. It has nothing to do with milestones, but it's about our collective growth together. And at that point of time, if somebody said, I mean, my coaching goals are most important, I would really, really question that, because I think people were fighting for life and I think more fundamental things. And yet, as coaches, we were going ahead with our work, and clients were coming in and all that was happening. So celebrating is also about, I would say, just deeper gratitude.
Yeah.
Be able to bring that in,
Yeah.
to be able to take that.
Even ICF acknowledged it at that time that people were so there for each other that pro bono coaching increased.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you could increase the amount of pro bono coaching you did for client experience hours. You know, because that's what we did, Vijay. We were just coaching each other, being there for each other, just listening to each other. Whoever was going through our time, we just provided that kind of listening here. Yeah.
I mean, some really interesting comments coming in the chat box. I mean, I love this, the way everybody is bringing in their experiences, lived experiences, cultural and otherwise, with celebrating and other things. So I think Money is saying acknowledging is necessary but not sufficient condition. It may take something for granted. For instance, I got up this morning while 150,000 people, as per stats in the world, have not. Okay, I acknowledge life and has given me that day, and celebrate this day to make a difference. Yeah, why not, would be my short response. Yeah. And I think Silvina has said celebrating could just mean pausing and acknowledging you did something towards your development and you deserve to be grateful to yourself.
Yeah.
Celebration is also nuanced. It's sometimes a matter of language, expression, culturally influenced, and also understanding of how it will impact the client. Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I love that, because for me, if something is sitting with me, I got to take a quiet moment. That kind of pause or quiet moment to figure it out and create some lightness for myself. So that pause and that silence is quite a part of the process of celebration. Then I know for myself what I could do differently. Yeah. And this whole thing about communities, as you spoke about, Vijay, or you started talking about how we show up for communities. You know, we kind of, one of our biggest communities, you know this and I know this, is our community of coaches. Yeah, we all are in that community, and coaches all around us, and meeting each other, talking with each other. A big celebration for me is even the unknown, celebrating the coach that I don't know, but perhaps said something on a webinar, and they send me a message on LinkedIn. Guess what, Cindy? I started coach training. And, you said X, Y, and Z and things. And I just go, well, that sounds wonderful. It sounds like you want to take the step and you're finally doing it. I'm very pleased to hear that. Stay in touch. Now, I can tell you this in the quiet. I'll have to go really sit down and figure it out. When did I say what? But I don't remember. And quite frankly, I haven't got over that. But it's just celebrating with people known and unknown within your community.
Yeah.
The spirit, right? The spirit of togetherness.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Peter Hawkins once said this, that it's also about the impact that we leave on the generations that are coming behind, right? So it's like the work we do as a coach today may have its impact many generations later. And I love that, future focus of celebration, right? So as I said earlier, it's the potential for that growth. It's the potential for, what the client could be, what you could be as a coach, what this profession could be. I know one of the common discussions in coaching circles is often that, the profession is not recognized enough. I mean, there's this confusion that, it's still emerging. It's not as big as some of the others, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But, I actually celebrate that as an opportunity.
Of course.
That, we're just at the beginning of the road. And
we can
just
contribute.
Even,
we can contribute, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Vijay, I spoke over you.
No,
Continue.
no. I mean, absolutely, right? So that's the topic of contribution. So can we celebrate that contribution and potential to contribute?
Yeah.
Often it is said, when you educate a woman, you're actually educating a family. Or, when you make a difference to a woman, you're making a difference to a family. I would just like to add my twist with coaching, and I really mean it, that, as a coach, when you coach one person or you coach one team, you have no idea how far that can spiral. And like you said, right? Somebody writing to you saying that, I heard you here and I've decided to become a coach. Similarly, when you coach one leader, when you coach one person, your impact is going much further. But sometimes we don't have the vision, we don't have the foresight to see that. So I would
No.
actually like to celebrate that when we talk about systemic impact. And we just look at saying that, okay, how many coaching sessions did I do this year, right? And we keep a log, and maybe that log is in tens, 50s, hundreds, whatever it is, right? Whatever be that data. But have you looked at and thought of the potential that it's actually reaching and hitting? And now that, I think, certainly calls for celebration.
I love that. The expansiveness of it all, right?
Yeah.
So we just think we're doing one coaching session, but there's this ripple effect. We think we're doing a webinar and we're opening some topic for discussion, but we never know the impact of it. But that's good, okay? We don't need to know everything, right? Let it all flow in the universe and create ripples of change.
Cindy, I'm going to switch things up a little bit because,
Yeah.
we spoke celebration, we've gone through success, failure, but, let's come back to lightness. And I'm mindful of the time. We have 9 minutes to go.
Yeah.
And, if anybody has any questions, I know we've kind of taken it as we moved along. Please put that in the Q&A box. But, lightness is also about, like I said, not taking yourself so seriously. So I'm assuming you're here in this webinar because you've had some experience with coaching, either as a coach or somebody who's been on the other side of coaching. Let's maybe round off, putting in the chat box, talking about, some blooper moments you've had to
Yeah.
bring in that lightness and to maybe sign off the year, something that you look back and, you'd like to have a good laugh about, or something that made you smile, thanks to coaching.
Yeah, my light moment for 2023. Feel free, go ahead.
Okay, so
What
we
was
have
yours,
another
Vijay?
question. Sorry?
What was yours?
I'm still thinking, but I'm just like, I thought I should put that out there because suddenly I just realized maybe, I could just see myself getting all charged up and, I mean, very serious. I said, okay, let's bring in the lightness. Sure, this impact and, all of that I spoke about, but that
Yeah.
impact can happen only if we are able to reclaim our own lightness and, again,
Yeah.
it's paradoxical, right? We want to be the agents of change, but it's still very important not to take yourself so seriously because you can never go about creating impact like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And coaches, if you are in that phase where you are taking yourself seriously and there may be some things you're managing in your background, maybe a little tip. Create something for yourself, some light moments, even if it's 5 minutes, but start creating just some activity or some tool or some technique or ritual that you would do for yourself to create some lightness.
I can start with that, Cindy. Maybe not the
There we
blooper.
go for it.
And Mani, I will answer your question. That's a lovely question, and I think I'm going to, with your permission, borrow that to ask my clients. But before I come to that, one of the things that I have noticed, and all of this comes from reflective practice and us asking ourselves, right? There would be some sessions that would leave me very very tired, right? Very exhausting. And it has nothing to do with the client or it has nothing to do with the quality of conversation. It's just that. So I realized that with all that, I just want to smile a lot more in the session. So I always ask myself, right? somewhere halfway through the session, if I realize that, leave the laughing, leave the humor, can we just start with smiling? So I would just do a nudge and check myself in and say, okay, this is getting too serious. So, pause, breathe, you just smile, right? And that can completely reset. So I look at my smile meter sometimes. So that's my little trade secret. So I just feel so much lighter, so much energized, right? I mean, at the end of the session, I want to feel as energetic. And while some topics will drain you out, I mean, it's only natural. What if you could come out feeling so fresh at the end of that session? So that's something, that's my thing to bring in lightness. And Money, I will answer your question, which is, if coaching is a song, what tune will your coaching be? What song? So I don't want to be quoted on this, but what comes to my mind immediately is 18 Till I Die, and I'm not going to explain why.
I got a few, but the one that gets my energy going is that Rocky, when you run up the stairs. I forgot the name of the song now. Yeah?
Yeah.
That one. Yeah, just gets me going from.
So Money, you
nothing
should share
mentally.
yours. Yeah, now that you've
What
asked
is
us the
it?
question. Okay.
Coaches, please share yours, your moment that gets you light, whether it's music or dance or whatever you do. What are your light moments?
So Money's is Beethoven's Symphony, and Amarendran says, lightness has thawed several conversations with my clients. Tense moments dissipates. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Sandeep says, my lightness during 2023 has been gradually evolving from doing of a coach to being of a coach.
Ah, wonderful.
And I think I missed this one about from Pekka. My 87-year-old father often says, this is a good moment to be alive. I think that is celebration. Indeed.
That's it. Yeah, amen to that.
Yeah.
Any other comments in the chat? Any glasses for us?
Okay. Not yet. Pulling my dad's legs and irritating mom. Okay, that's from Rajesh. What else? I mean, lighter moments or anything, which helps you just be a lighter version of yourself. Smile. Yeah. Yes, Saurabh. Absolutely.
And patience too, right? Like instead of becoming reactive and creating some anxiety for yourself, just take a moment, have some patience. All will be well in the end.
Yeah, my children tell me my jokes are really bad. Okay. So I tell my jokes to my clients. It seems to lighten up the sessions. Yeah, absolutely. Whatever works. A good laugh. Yes. So wherever you are in the world logging in from, we hope at the end of the session, you are smiling, you are feeling lighter, and you are feeling very positive about what lies ahead.
Yeah, and you can create some of that, or when appropriate, create some lightness or lighter moments in your coaching. Yeah, for yourself, your coaching, for your communities. So one of the light moments for myself is I like to dance like nobody's watching. I mean, but seriously, everything has to be curtains drawn and doors locked. And then only I would do it to create lightness for myself.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Light and celebrating. Yeah. A lot of acknowledgements coming in. Thank you, everyone.
What is that Beethoven song? Where's the link?
Yes. There is. It's been put in the chat box.
Thank you, everyone. It was
Christmas wishes coming in.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Merry Christmas to you. Happy holidays, everyone. And we look forward to hearing from you all next year, connecting with you all again.
Thank you. Happy vacation wishes. Merry Christmas. Yes.
Dins, do you want to
Oh.
say anything? Dins,
Yes, Cindy.
do you want to say anything? You can come onto video, it's the last few minutes.
Hello,
Here we
everyone. Was a wonderful session, Cindy and Vijay. And
Mhm.
glad to see that people are happy too. Also, Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year too. We will
Dins,
also
what do you want to celebrate for yourself?
Pardon?
What are you celebrating for yourself in 2023?
Being the best of Kocharia.
More power to you.
Hey, more power to us. Thank you so much,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Have a great
Have
rest
a
of the day.
wonderful, wonderful week.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.